Hey everybody and welcome back to the channel. Oscar nominations are coming up extremely quick on January 23rd, so I thought it was about time I get out my final Oscar nomination predictions. We've had a lot of information since my last video. We've had the BAFTA nominations, the Oscar long list, the Critics' Choice Award nominations, the Golden Globes took place. So there's been a lot of change up in my rankings, so we're going to kind of break that all down, go through my rankings, see where I'm at heading into nominations morning. Before I jump into it, if you want to keep up with this awards season race, definitely drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping me out. I'm hoping to have a live reaction to the Oscar nominations next week posted. That one's a little bit pending. I do have a surgery currently scheduled for the day after the nominations, so if my time just doesn't line up or allow me to make a video, I might have to skip on that one. But I'll definitely have a video giving my winners predictions and a live reaction to the actual Oscar ceremony in March. So, with all of that out of the way, let's jump into Best Picture. Kicking things off, we have Best Picture, and Best Picture's been really across the board so far this year. The only televised award ceremony we've had is the Golden Globes, and musical and comedy went to Emilia Perez, and drama went to The Brutalist. Drama's usually the heavier hitting category, so I currently have The Brutalist in at number 1, and I also have it number 1 because I have it at number 1 in a few other categories I'll be talking about shortly here. Right now it seems to be the very, very slight frontrunner, but the issue with that is when I say slight frontrunner, I mean slight. I currently think The Brutalist, Anora, Emilia Perez, Conclave, Wicked, and A Complete Unknown all have a shot to win Best Picture. I could see something wonky happening, like Emilia Perez winning the comedy musical Golden Globe, The Brutalist winning drama, Anora winning Critics' Choice, Conclave winning at BAFTA, and Wicked winning SAG Ensemble. And then we could be going into Oscars night with a 5-horse race for Best Picture. So with that being said, it's just kind of pick whatever you want right now, and it's really play it by ear until we see these other award bodies give out their trophies. But one thing's for certain, those top 6 films are getting in no matter what. I also think The Substance is pretty much locked in at this point. Director, it's showing up everywhere. It won Best Comedy or Musical Actress at the Golden Globes for Demi Moore. So I think The Substance, even though it's a horror movie, is going to get into Best Picture. Dune Part 2 seems to be the film that has been just slowly sliding down rankings this entire award season, but I have a hard time seeing it miss Best Picture, so I think it's getting in. Here is where everything gets a little bit more iffy. 9, 10, 11. I do think these final 3 slots are between the final 2 slots are between Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, and Sing Sing, and I just don't know what to go with. Nickel Boys seems to be one of those very unique films that's shot in a first-person perspective that the Academy would like to go out for and give a Best Picture nomination. So for that reason alone, I just feel like I have to slot it into Best Picture, and I've been going back and forth between Sing Sing and A Real Pain for a long time. I just feel like A Real Pain has an easier path to Best Picture just because a lot of people have Kieran Culkin at the front of their mind. He is currently the leader in the Best Supporting Actor category, and when you have someone leading in an above-the-line category, I feel like a lot more people are willing to just checkbox your movie when getting to Best Picture, so that's why I have it right there, but I will not be shocked at all if Sing Sing pops up nomination morning and gets into the Best Picture lineup, but I had to make a decision, and this is what I'm going with. I have Challengers in September 5 still hanging out there, but I do not think they have a chance to get into Best Picture. They would be my ultra long shots at this point. It's really just between Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, and Sing Sing duking it out for those final slots there. Shifting over to director, I've definitely tightened up my list quite a bit. There are 3 main directors that I think are absolute locks at this point in time. Brady Corbet, Sean Baker, Jacques Audiard, they are getting in no matter what happens. They've made all the precursors without pretty much any issue. And I'm feeling pretty confident in Coralie Frejat as well. She made it in everywhere except DGA, but I wasn't really expecting her to show up there. But the director's branch generally likes to get one international director in there, usually something around the Cannes Film Festival, and that Farja perfectly fits that mold. So I think she's going to get in, even though this is a horror movie. This seems to be a film that many people are embracing, and I think she will nab this Oscar nomination. I do have Edward Berger for Conclave at number 5 currently. He has made it in everywhere as well. That's why I have him slotted in. For the longest time, I felt like Ramel Ross was going to get in for Nickel Boys just because it's such a unique film shot in the first person. But the more I sit with it, he's just not getting into enough precursors, in my opinion. It's his first feature film. So really, he's relying on the director's branch to really go out for him to get this nomination. And it's just really hard to predict that. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if his name is called Oscar nomination morning, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for Ramel Ross. But from just a prediction standpoint, it's one of those that's really too difficult to make a call on, just because Edward Berger has gotten everything you really need for, a precursor haul. Denis Villeneuve is someone who has gotten pretty much every single precursor as well, but I just have a feeling he's going to get snubbed just like he did for the first Dune film. I feel like Denis will finally get his nomination when Dune Messiah comes out in a couple to, 2-3 years. But I think since this is a second film in a known trilogy, he's kind of on the outside looking in. So my eyes are really looking for Ramel Ross versus Edward Berger. If anything else really happens, I will be pretty shocked, and I will be extremely upset if Farjad does miss the director lineup. Kicking off our first acting category, we have lead actress. I have Demi Moore moving up 3 slots since my last video to number 1, and that's just because she won the first televised award with the Golden Globes, and she just has such a wonderful narrative behind her. She hasn't received many acting nominations spanning across her multi-decade career, and she took a big break from acting, and she came back and knocked it out of the park with this performance. So right now, I definitely think she has the momentum behind her heading into Oscar nomination morning. Is she going to take home the Oscar? Not quite sure yet, but I definitely feel certain she is locked for a nomination. Mikey Madison, I feel, is the one actress that can really push her for the win. She's kind of the new girl on the block. She's really only known for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Scream 5. So I kind of understand if they don't want to give her an Oscar this early into her career, even though it is most certainly deserved for her performance in Anora. She's definitely locked for this nomination, but I just don't feel her for the win right now unless she starts picking up some wins at other precursors. Carla Sofia Gascon, making it in everywhere she needs to, definitely locked for the nomination, and the same can be said for Cynthia Erivo. I just don't see these two ladies taking home a win, but definitely getting a nomination. Now this 5th slot is where things can get a little bit messy. For the longest time, everyone thought Angelina Jolie was going to make it in, but she has kind of fallen off a cliff. No one is talking about this movie. It's not getting into any other categories, so I have a hard time predicting it. And then the same can kind of be said with Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths. That film is just not contending for any other awards, which is unfortunate because she gives a really good performance in that film as well. Then we have Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl, who has shown up at the SAG Awards, and she got a Golden Globe nomination as well. If the Academy really loves The Last Showgirl and wants to go out for it, I could see this happening. We saw Pamela Anderson and Jamie Lee Curtis pop up at SAG. Jamie Lee Curtis just got a BAFTA nomination as well, so people have eyes on this movie, but it just seems a little bit too far out there for me personally. So what I'm doing is I'm going with Fernanda Torres, and I'm Still Here. She won the Best Drama Actress Golden Globe, and if you go look back at all of the actresses who have won Best Drama Actress at the Golden Globe, there has been very, very few that have missed the Oscar nomination after winning that award. So if Fernanda Torres didn't get this nomination, it would be an extreme outlier for that sort of correlation between winning the Drama Globe and getting nominated at the Oscar. A lot of people are buzzing about her. She is very strong with international voters as well. So kind of with everything around her, she seems to have the most passion behind her. So for that, I'm giving her my 5th slot. Lead actor is a much quicker conversation. As you can see, I've had absolutely no changes to my top 5 since my previous video. Adrian Brody, Timothée Chalamet, Ralph Fiennes, Coleman Domingo, those 4 are absolutely locked in. Daniel Craig is the only one who has missed a couple, or actually no, Daniel Craig has only missed BAFTA, so he's only missed one precursor. So I still feel pretty confident in him securing his Oscar nomination here. If anyone's going to push him, it's going to be Sebastian Stan, but I kind of have some concerns that he might be splitting votes between his two films. Sebastian Stan won the Globe for Different Man, but we also seen Sebastian Stan pick up some nominations for The Apprentice. So he's really going to need one film to make that big push to knock out Daniel Craig and get the Oscar nomination. I personally think if he does get the nomination, it's going to be for The Apprentice over A Different Man. But at this point in time, I'm just going with Daniel Craig for Queer just because he has more, precursors behind him at this point in time. Shifting over to the messiest acting category, we have Supporting Actress. The only two locks I can absolutely promise you here are Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez and Ariana Grande for Wicked. Beyond that, I really have no idea what to do. As you can tell, I have 10 ladies' names on the screen here, and if you told me any combination of the, 8 ladies below option number 2 made it in, I really couldn't argue with you. I just have a feeling that Felicity Jones is going to get in for The Brutalist. That seems to be a very acting forward movie that the Academy is going to go out for. And Isabella Rossellini has been very strong with the precursors as well. They seem to be the two that have the strongest narrative and push behind them currently out of those 8 ladies below number 2. The number 5 slot is the one where I absolutely have no idea what to tell you. Margaret Qualley made it into the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice, but she just missed SAG and BAFTA. Jamie Lee Curtis just made it into SAG and BAFTA, but made it into nothing before that. Daniel Deadwyler has SAG. Monica Barbaro has SAG. Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, I believe, only has Critics' Choice at this point in time. And Selena Gomez missed SAG, but she got BAFTA and the Golden Globe. So there's just a really wonky combination of people getting nominated at different awards bodies here, and it's really just going to be what is the Academy's taste. I have Margaret Qualley in right now, and honestly, I just have her in because that's my personal preference. If you asked me to pick one of these actresses, I would put Margaret Qualley in the top 5. I think she has a decent shot of making it in, but I will not be shocked at all nomination morning if she's not there. Jamie Lee Curtis seems to be the late bloomer, but I just don't think The Last Showgirl is a film that's going to pop up at the Oscars, in my opinion. But she definitely seems to be the strongest at the moment. Daniel Deadwyler is in a movie that would get no other nominations beside her, so I don't know how to feel about that. Monica Barbaro, I think A Complete Unknown is on the rise, but I just don't feel like her performance was anything to write home about. I don't know if it was deserving of a supporting actress nomination. But if the Academy absolutely loves that Bob Dylan biopic, possibly. Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, they would really need to go out for Nickel Boys for that to happen, which is possible. I think if Ramel Ross makes it a director, Ingenue Ellis-Taylor could definitely come along for the ride and get a supporting actress nomination as well. Selena Gomez just seems to be the one that I think is an extreme long shot to make it in. Other people feel more confident in her than I do, but she seems to be the one that I just do not want to predict at all, but I have to put her on the list because she's definitely been popping up randomly here or there, and Emilia Perez is an extremely strong movie, so if they want to over-nominate that film to get 13, 14 Oscar nominations, she'll probably be there. So, I wish I felt more concrete about this, but I really don't, but I'm just kind of going with my heart and who I hope gets in here. And our final acting category is Supporting Actor. Not a ton of shakeup here, just a little bit to talk about. Kieran Culkin's still number 1 for A Real Pain. Guy Pearce making in for The Brutalist. Edward Norton is the biggest up mover in this category, and that's just because The Complete Unknown is definitely making it into Best Picture, and Edward Norton is coming along with the ride along with Timothy. Yura Borisov has made it in everywhere he needed to, so he's definitely landing this nomination for Anora. And the final 5th slot, to me, comes down to Jeremy Strong and Clarence Macklin. I personally have Jeremy Strong in, and that's because I have Sing Sing outside of my Best Picture 10. Now, if I were to switch A Real Pain or Nickel Boys for Sing Sing in the Best Picture lineup, I would probably put Clarence Macklin in. I just feel like this movie does not have enough eyes on it right now, and it's kind of starting to re-enter theaters and get a second push from A24 towards the end of the Oscar, nomination race here. I'm just not sure how much that final push is going to do, just because a lot of voters have a lot of other things on their mind with the wildfires taking place in Los Angeles. So I feel like it's too little too late. That's why I feel like Sing Sing is just on the outside looking in. I'll be extremely happy if Clarence Macklin makes it in. It'll be a wonderful nomination that is very, very well deserved. From what I hear, this is still a movie that has played nowhere near me because A24 has had such a horrific rollout for this film. But everything I've heard about his performance and his role and how he's kind of like the heart of the film, I hope he makes it in. But for right now, I'm just going with the bigger named actor just because of how everything is shaping up currently and kind of the picture I am drawing with my Best Picture 10. Shifting over to the screenplay categories, we have adapted screenplay up first. I have Conclave at number 1. I'm pretty confident that that'll be taking home the trophy come Oscar night. But I have Emilia Perez at number 2. That is kind of the big groundswell movie that seems to have a lot of support behind it, so I think it's definitely going to sneak into screenplay. Then I have Sing Sing and Nickel Boys. They have been performing pretty well in the screenplay precursors, so I think they're going to make it in as well. And then at number 5, I do have A Complete Unknown. I think A Complete Unknown is just a stronger film at this point in time than Dune Part 2, even though Dune is probably a harder film to adapt to the screen. I would personally have Dune in at number 5 over A Complete Unknown, but with how everything is shaping up currently, I just can't do that. I definitely think A Complete Unknown is going to sneak in and get its adapted screenplay nomination. Up next is original screenplay, and as you can tell, very minimal movement since my last video. Anora is still the runaway frontrunner for this trophy. Then I have A Real Pain, The Brutalist, The Substance. I think all those films are definitely getting in. And then it comes down to challengers versus September 5. Now, I'm personally eliminating September 5 from getting any nominations. I just don't feel good about that movie. It kind of had its moment where people were kind of buzzing and talking about it, but I've not heard much else about it after that. Now that might come around to bite me in the ass, and it'll probably get, best editing and best original screenplay or something dumb like that. But more people are talking about challengers than September 5 at the end of the day, and I just really hope that challengers can get the original screenplay nom, because that makes me feel better about it possibly getting into other categories such as score and song. So for that alone, I'm definitely going to put in challengers at my number 5 slot right now. Shifting over to the technical categories, first up we have cinematography, and my top 5 has remained the same here too. The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune 2, Nickel Boys, Nosferatu. All these films seem to be doing extremely well at this point in time. The one film that is really starting to scare me, though, is Emilia Perez. I could see Dune, Nickel Boys, or Nosferatu missing for Emilia Perez. And once again, that's if the Academy wants to go out to bat and give this film 13, 14 Oscar nominations. This is one where it might sneak in. I have Wicked and Anora down there. I just don't think those films are strong enough in this category to garner nominations. But I mean, it's definitely on the table. And then I did slot in challengers at number 9. I didn't have it in my previous video. I don't think it's going to get a nomination, but I just wanted to list it because challengers probably deserves a cinematography nomination due to how amazing that film looks. Up next is costumes. And I have Wicked and Dune Part 2 at 1 and 2. Those seem to be the two films that are definitely going to get in. I feel pretty confident about them. If you would have talked to me yesterday, I would have said I feel very confident in Gladiator 2 getting a nomination in costumes, but it just missed BAFTA in the costume category after making the long list, which is absolutely shocking to me. I definitely thought Gladiator was going to get in there, especially with it being a British film, but I just don't know how it misses at the Academy Awards. It has some of the most elaborate and interesting costumes of the year, even if the movie isn't, all the, it's not the best thing in the world. But I think it's definitely deserving of a costume nomination. So I'm leaving it there, but if that gets nipped at the last minute, I will truly be shocked. Then I have Conclave. I think those are just some really nice, modern looking costumes. Everything works very well with how the film flows. And at number 5, I have Nosferatu, which has some excellent period piece costumes. This is another category where I'm a little bit scared of Emilia Perez. If they want to over-nominate it, here's another category they could easily plop it in, especially if they're not feeling Gladiator 2 like I thought they would be. I also think A Complete Unknown could sneak in here as well, too, if they really want to over-nominate that film, just because it kind of has that period costumes as well. Then I have Maria, Beetlejuice, and The Brutalist. I unfortunately think all of them are on the outside looking in at this point in time, but I wanted to list them there because they definitely have some very solid costume work as well. Up next is makeup and hairstyling, which is a category we got a long list for, and my top 6 movies are films I had there previously, so I didn't even really shift them around because I still feel pretty strongly about them. The Substance, Dune Part 2, Wicked, Nosferatu, Beetlejuice. Now, you could take A Different Man, Emilia Perez, The Apprentice, and swap it out for Beetlejuice, just because that's a film that really isn't contending for any other Oscar nominations, in my opinion, besides maybe costume. So if people just don't want to deal with Beetlejuice, they might pick one of the other films. But just because that was the 5 I had locked in before the long list appeared, I'm still just going to stick with them heading into nomination morning. Up next is a category I'm going to be paying very close attention to, and that is film editing. And that's because a lot of the time, a editing win is very crucial in a package to take home Best Picture. In a year like this, where everything seems to be extremely spread out and there's multiple films contending for that Best Picture prize, a win in editing could really boost your chances of taking home one of the top prizes. I currently have The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Dune 2, and Anora in my top 5. Now, what I've done there is I've kind of played it safe, where I have Anora, Emilia Perez, Conclave, and Brutalist, which I currently have as the top 4 films contending for the Best Picture prize, all making it in, just because I think it would make it the most interesting. Then I have Dune Part 2 in there, just because the editing is excellent in there, and I still think, even though the film is slipping, it'll be a pretty strong technical contender, and receive quite a few nominations. Below that at 6 and 7, I have Challengers and September 5, which are 2 very strong editing contenders. My big concern is they're really not contending in many other categories. Challengers has a few more, where September 5 really just has screenplay at this point in time. A lot of people felt like September 5 was a strong editing contender, about a month ago. But I feel like with how hot this race is heating up, we're going to see a lot more Best Picture contenders sneak into this editing category. I'd love to see The Substance show up. Amazing editing in that film. I just think it's on the outside looking in. And the same can be said with Nickel Boys and Wicked. I just don't think they can do it. But this will be a very, very important category. If Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, or Nora miss this category, that kind of says quite a bit of where that film may stand with the Academy. Moving over to production design, we have Wicked still at number 1, Dune Part 2 at 2, The Brutalist at 3, and Conclave at 4. I'm feeling pretty solid with those. And then I have Gladiator 2 at number 5, which is kind of shocking to me. I mean, they rebuilt like half of a Coliseum to film in, so I thought that'd be pretty much a lock for production design, but it seems to be struggling to get in everywhere. I'm leaving it in just because we don't have a ton of massive sweeping production design films this year. It's mostly just Wicked and Gladiator, where Dune was filmed, mostly in the desert type of thing. But Nosferatu is performing pretty well, so I wouldn't be shocked if that pops in here. It seems like Nosferatu definitely has a chance to get 5 or 6 tech nominations, possibly, if it lands all of them. And I think Beetlejuice is definitely worthy of a production design nomination as well. It definitely has an outside shot of sneaking in. But I'm going to stay steady with my original top 5, even though I bumped Gladiator 2 down. Up next is Score, and I have The Brutalist, Conclave, Challengers, Emilia Perez, and The Wild Robot. Those seem to be the 5 films that have been getting in pretty much everywhere this award season. The only one that's giving me some pause is The Wild Robot. I know that animated films have struggled in the past to get score nominations at the Oscars, and if Wicked performs extremely well, that's right there. And then once again, Nosferatu, if it wants to sneak into another technical category, it's definitely, a possibility. I was kind of shocked when that even made the long list 4 score. So with that being there, I feel pretty strong that it's lurking, around that number 5 slot. But the Wild Robot score is just so good. The Challenger score is so good. So I definitely hope those two films can get in, even though they aren't contending for too many other prizes. They're just so amazing that I hope they can grab some nominations here. Up next is sound. At number 1, I have Dune 2. Amazing sound design and mixing there. And then at 2, 3, and 4, I have the 3 music-based films. Wicked, Amelia Perez, A Complete Unknown. It definitely seems like music-based films get nominated in the sound category every single year. And since these 3 are all top 5 Best Picture contending films, I just kind of tossed them all in here. Then at number 5, I have Gladiator 2. Once again, that is definitely slipping, but it has those big battle scenes that I think can definitely, can definitely get it into the top 5. The other films that made the shortlist, Alien Romulus, Blitz, The Wild Robot, Joker 2, and Deadpool 3. Where else are they showing up? I mean, I kind of have some special effects nominations that could possibly help one of these boost into the top 5. But I mean, when looking at this list, Gladiator 2 just seems to be the easiest to give that 5th slot to. And even though it has been slipping the past few weeks, it didn't do all that well at BAFTA. I'm holding on to the last threads that it can just sneak in by the skin of its teeth and gets a few extra Oscar nominations. Up next is visual effects. I'm keeping Dune Part 2 at number 1, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at 2, and Gladiator 2 at number 3. Now, this is another category that we got a short list for, and when those 3 films showed up, I think they're getting in. Especially, even though I was kind of talking about how Gladiator 2 was slipping, this seems like a category that will definitely make it in, as they built the physical lower half of that Coliseum, but then they had to CGI everything else in on top of it. That seems like a lot of extra work, and it looks fantastic in the film, so I definitely think it can make it in. At number 4, I have Better Man, which is absolutely bombing, but it seems to be doing extremely well so far this season in visual effects categories. Then that 5th slot, when it came down to the rest of the films that made the shortlist, I wasn't quite sure what to do. Mufasa doesn't seem to be doing all too well. Wicked seems interesting since it's a Best Picture contender, but that film seems like it has a lot more physical set design more than CGI going on, at least kind of like the eye-popping, mind-blowing type of stuff. Twisters just doesn't seem right to me. Deadpool doesn't seem right to me. And Civil War apparently has some really good special effects going on, but it's just not kind of big and flashy and in your face like you would expect. So I'm going with Alien Romulus. I've seen some stuff online that a lot of the rendering and space things that they do throughout this film is very labor intensive and kind of insane that they even accomplished it on the budget that they did. So if the visual effects branch really wants to go out and nominate a crew that kind of went out of their way to go above and beyond with, limited resources, Alien Romulus seems to be a cool film to sneak in there. But that 5th slot, I think, could be pretty much any of these films. But that's just kind of what I'm going with, just based on, buzz I've heard around online. Up next is animated feature, and from a nomination standpoint, this is one of the easiest categories to predict. The Wild Robot, Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, and Wallace and Gromit. Those are your top 5. Absolutely lock it in. I would be absolutely stunned if Moana 2 made it into the top 5. The only change I made here is Flow did win the Golden Globe, so I think going into Oscar night, this could be Flow versus The Wild Robot, but for the purposes of this video, predicting what's going to get nominated Oscar nomination morning, this top 5, lock it in. And for our last technical category, we have original song. I currently kept my top 5 in place from my previous video. El Mal and Mi Camino are getting in for Amelia Perez. El Mal seems to be the frontrunner currently. The Journey from 6888 is the yearly Diane Warren slot. That's getting nominated. Then you can kind of toss around a few different nominations if you'd like. I'm leaving Kiss the Sky in from The Wild Robot and Compress Repress from Challengers. I'm hoping both those films can land their song nomination and their score nomination, or at least some combination of the one or two, just so I get one of my predictions right. Harper and Will Go West seems to be one that pops up a little bit here and there, so if that film makes it into documentary feature, definitely a possibility. Like a Bird from Sing Sing, if Sing Sing makes it into Best Picture and we see that film rack up 4 or 5 nominations, definitely there. Sick in the Head from Kneecap, that definitely is a film that performed better at BAFTA, but it has an opportunity to pop up here. And everything below that, I don't feel too confident in. The Last Showgirl song didn't even get longlisted. So, yeah, I'm just kind of, going with my original top 5. They've been popping up as much as they need to, so I'm just going to lock that in. Up next is International Feature, which is definitely a little bit more confusing at the Academy Awards just because All We Imagine Is Light was not submitted by India, so there's a little bit more wiggle room here. But Amelia Perez is going to win this award, obviously. Then I think Seed of the Sacred Fig, I'm Still Here, and Kneecap are going to get nominated. Then I think you could swap out that 5th slot for Vermiglio or The Girl with the Needle. But if Flow is starting to become a possible front runner in the best animated feature, or the best animated feature category, excuse me, I think it has a pretty solid chance of sneaking in and grabbing that 5th slot in the international feature category. And finally, we have the documentary feature category along with the 3 shorts categories. I'm not too well informed on the films nominated in these 4 categories. I relied very heavily on online articles, different pundits, different YouTubers to try to piece together these final 4 lists. So don't take my word on these, really. I would definitely do some of your own research and form your own opinion on these. But for documentary feature, I have No Other Land, Daughters, Black Box Diaries, The Remarkable Life of a Bellin, and Sugarcane currently making it in. If I scroll down to animated short, I currently have Beautiful Men, Me, A Bear Named Wojtek, A Crab in the Pool, and Goodbye My World. For live action short, I have The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, Anjua, The Masterpiece, Aline, and Paris 70. And for documentary short, I have The Only Girl in the Orchestra, Eternal Father, I Am Ready Father, Chasing Rue, and Incident. Once again, I don't know too much about the films nominated in these categories, unfortunately, so I'm relying heavily on other people to gather this information for what I'm predicting. And finally, on my Best Picture category, I had 13 films listed, so I just kind of want to do a final total of how many nominations I currently have those films predicted for. Right now, I have Amelia Perez as the most nominated film with 11 nominations, then followed with Conclave and The Brutalist with 10, Dune 2 and Wicked with 8, Anora in The Substance with 6, A Complete Unknown with 5, Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, Challengers with 3, Sing Sing with 2, and September 5 with 0. So I've kind of had some shakeups here. Looking at this, I definitely think The Substance could drop a category. A Complete Unknown could pick up 1 or 2 more. But just kind of going through and looking over everything again, I just didn't see any wiggle room where I wanted to make changes. I could definitely see Amelia Perez picking up 1 or 2 more in those technical categories. But for right now, heading into Oscar nomination morning, I feel this is a very, very solid list that I feel pretty confident in, given with how the Best Picture race is currently shaking up. I definitely think I have the right groupings of nominations and kind of how it'll generally shake out Oscar nomination morning. So I'm definitely interested to see what will take place. But there you have it. Those are all of my Oscar nomination predictions 1 week before the Oscar nominations take place. Please let me know what you think about my nominations in the comments down below. I want to thank you for checking out my final Oscar nominations predictions. What are your thoughts on my predictions? Who are some people you're predicting? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping me out, and I'm looking forward to this award season race. Thank you, and have a good one, everybody.